Hello everybody. I want to welcome you to my quiet place. You can probably hear stuff in the background. But anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with faith. Because faith is like it said in the book. I got the book right here. On my iPad it says, faith is the head chemist of the mind. When faith is blended with the vibrations of thought, the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration, translated in a physical equivalent. So faith is this thing in our mind that we are spiritual beings, right? Born with an intellect and a physical body. And as we think about that, we're going to take and use the diagram that I sent you. And on that diagram, we got this little guy with a big head. Got his arms and his legs there. And you got to remember, this is our conscious mind, right? This is our conscious mind. This is our subconscious, and you've got a drawing of this. But what happens is, from our spirit, we have this information that comes to us. These ideas, things that come to us, and we're wondering, well, what is this? And this, of course, it comes from God, and we have this information that comes in. And then we get to decide whether or not we're going to accept it or reject it. I was talking to a gentleman this morning, and I was telling him, everything that comes in, positive or negative, comes in here. And if we don't believe something's a bad idea, we'll reject it. He was telling me, his dad told him, he says, well, if you really want to get ahead, you've got to work hard. You've got to do things that are hard work. And it's like, and that's not true. Yes, you need to be consistent. You need to do things that might require some work, but is it always really hard physical labor? Well, no. And so it's like, well, that's not hard work, so we reject it. And it's like, and that's crazy. But we reject all the things like that. Well, there's no place to get the money. Is there? Is that true? Is there not any place to get the money? We reject that. So every time we turn around, we've got these things that we're fed from maybe your friends, maybe something you grew up with, and those type things that says, well, no, you can't do that. And so much of what we believe, right, is in our subconscious minds. So many of our core beliefs are here. Many of the things that we grew up, and like you said, your dad tells you, you have to work hard in order to do that. Your mom tells you, whenever you go out, make sure you got clean underwear on. I mean, it's like, until you turn 16, your underwear wasn't that important. That's really, I always thought was kind of funny, but, and of course there's so many other things, that your parents teach you. Your parents teach you about the weather, right? And they come in your room, says this room looks like somebody ran through it with a tornado. It's like, okay, so you learn what tornadoes do. But the thing about it is, we're saying silly things here, but these are all things that come into us, and then we either accept or reject them. So we can accept or reject the positive or the negative. The thing about it is, once we decide we're going to accept it, whether it's positive or negative, it comes on down. So we accept and reject both. The positive as well as the negative is accepted and rejected in the subconscious mind. And that's where all those core beliefs we were talking about come from. My dad said, you got to work hard. You got to get up early to get the worm. The early bird gets the worm. It's like, really? There's only one worm? It's like, well, what do other birds do whenever, that's just crazy to think that we teach people that, the early bird gets the worm. And yes, if you're an early riser, great, get up, go get that worm. But if that's not the best time of your day, as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we change the way we do our business, because maybe your business works for you better from afternoon until the evening. Or maybe your business works better from early morning till late afternoon. I mean, where is your peak time? Where is it that you are best at? Because in our lives, I'm going to erase this for just a second. In our lives, every one of us has this time where we get started, and we have this peak that comes into our life, and then we go back down, and it peaks up again. I mean, we have this every day. We have this, This here is around my 2 o'clock time, and so a lot of times I'll find something very active to do around 2 o'clock, because I know if I sit down, I am out. I am done. And so, find your peak times, and according to Daniel Pink, this time here is the time when you're very quantitative, whenever you're very logical thinking goes on. And this time on this end of your scale, as it goes up, I didn't mean to draw a line there, this scale, this is your innovative time. This is the time you know, that a lot of times if you're going to have brainstorming on how to work in your company, this is the time to do that, because this is where your ideas, this is where your bright ideas come from. Now, if you're having a meeting where you're trying to figure out, you know, how to get 2 widgets from your materials, you know, doing things that's going to help you create more, then you want to do it in that time. But as you do this, you know, like I said, this line here, this is where you're more logical. This is where you're more innovative, intuitive. So use your time, you know, and then according to what time you wake up. Everybody has a different time clock. Find your time clock, work it to, you know, so that it meets your needs. So let's go back to our little man. So we've got the conscious and the subconscious mind here. And what happens is, you know, we have these, this is where our emotions are at. So much of who we are is in this part of this. This is our emotions, because this is where our beliefs are at. I'm going to put a big B here, and I'm going to put a B-O for body, okay? And then, of course, we have the results. How are your results obtained? And so they're obtained through the things that we believe, that come from our subconscious, but it comes from our spiritual mind. And as we have this intellect, correct, that we use in order to go back and forth to the spiritual mind, and then we have the physical body. You know, the physical is this body. And so what is it that we need to do? How is it that we're going to create whatever it is we want? Well, you've got to change your beliefs in order to change your results. Just like we was talking about earlier, so many times people have been told, you know, different things about who they are, different things about what's going on in their life, and so they don't create the results they want, all because of some things that are in their minds there. Here's where we think, okay? This is our thinking mind. So what is it that you think? What are some things that go on in your mind that helps you in order to move forward? And like I said, whatever you think, you have to decide then, am I going to accept it or am I going to reject it? This is your accept and reject. Up here, this is accept. I'm going to put an A and an R. This is your accept and reject area of your mind. So as you get these ideas, you know, no matter where they come, you get $1 million idea and you think, well, you know, I don't have the knowledge to do that. I don't have the ability to do that. You throw out $1 million idea because your subconscious says, well, you know, I'm not so sure I'm ready for that. And so whenever these don't line up, remember as we talked about it as we was going through the course last week, we talked about how these two don't always match up. You know, we might get something in here that's positive, but we feel like it's negative, and then we won't pass it along. I'm sorry. And we won't pass it along because we got a negative thought about it. It's a good positive thought, but we leave it out and we bypass it. We throw out good positives. And that's what you want to get away from. So many times we throw out good, positive ideas just because it doesn't line up with some of the things that we've had in our past. So we've got to, what do we got to do? We've got to take and maybe do some things on faith. Believing, right, in things we don't see, things we may not quite understand. But knowing, right, that it's a good idea. You get this idea, boop, and you think, well, I'm not so sure that's a good idea. But a lot of times we don't even spend time deciding. We don't take and bring it in and look at it and say, you know, is this really a good idea? Am I thinking about this in a good way? Even though it doesn't line up with what I've been taught, some of the things that are in my emotional mind. You got to remember, we make decisions, right? This is what you need to remember. We make decisions according to how we feel about it. Our emotions. And our emotions are in our subconscious. And so if you allow your emotions to make all your decisions, your subconscious is some kind of going to throw out some good ideas. So the ideas you get, make sure you think through them. Remember, so many of your ideas are coming from the Spirit. I mean, these are given to you by God. And so you need to take them on faith, work with them, and then determine what's going to happen. Because if you don't, you're never going to get results. If you throw out good ideas up here because they don't match your pre-programming, right? That's what it is. If they don't match your pre-programming, then you throw out good ideas. And so, and don't throw out your good ideas. And that's it. You're going to get some bad ideas. There's no doubt about that. You know, every idea you get isn't always a good idea. But the thing about it is, test it. Take a look at it. Remember, the greatest way to evaluate anything is through experience. Evaluated experience is your greatest teacher. So, are you evaluating your experiences? Are you taking your experiences and determining, you know, is this good? Is this bad? Am I changing the programming that says, you know, well, maybe I need to look at this? Because as you look at more and more things that are outside what you feel comfortable with, then you'll get more and more ideas that may be that idea that really helps your business grow. So I hope this helped by drawing this out and kind of going through it again. But remember, we're in the chapter on faith, and so many things require faith. Remember, this is the head chemist of the mind. How did it put it? It said, faith is the head chemist of the mind. When faith is blended with the vibration of the thought, the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration, translates it into its translates it into its spiritual equivalent, and transmutes it to infinite intelligence, as in the case of prayer. So, don't be afraid of the things that come to you, because your subconscious has been pre-programmed, and sometimes what we do is we allow that pre-programming to keep us from moving forward with some really good ideas. So, just wanted to get this video out to you. Thank you so much for your time.